First of all, thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a real treat for. When Tom said this, I'm up in Calgary working, and we flew back just to make sure we were here. But you guys, it's real. It means so much to us. The most difficult scene here. I don't know. What would you say, Jeffrey? The stuff with already just most taxing stuff when we went to get the gold from the safe. That was it was a 12-hour day there, and to get that right tonally that was big. I'd say the last scene was really probably. I think the last scene was the toughest. I mean, I told a SAG when I had talked to them that I'd stayed up all night to kind of get ready for that piece. I knew it was coming, and to try to get that right, that was a tough scene. Because it was the last scene we were going to be together as well, and I knew, and so that was a real emotional day period.
Were you using like the personal aspect of you, a combination of your character and personally, to bring it together?
Yeah, sure. This film was it was experiential. So I was using. I got lucky in that it was the way that he set it up. That it would be the last day up there. So I knew that it was coming, and that really helped me. It helped me get there a lot. So yeah.
I think the hardest scene for you. I think the hardest scene for him was when he can't shoot her. From a director's point of view,
Yeah.
that was really the hardest scene. And from an actor's point of view, a director's point of view, somebody taught me in film school. I took acting at NYU, and somebody said who was it who ran the actor studio in the early days?
Strasberg?
No, before that, in the 30s and
Harold Clurman?
Harold Clurman. He got on stage and he forgot everything, and he looked down and he grabbed a prop, and it all came to him, And I felt Shea, he didn't really know what to do with him, and I remember saying, just go sit on the rock, and he went and sat on the rock, and it just grounded him. But I think that, for me, that was the hardest scene to get right.
How do you balance, keeping the emotions going on in a scene and then in between setups, Shea? I mean, do you try to stay focused? Do you stay in character on set? How does that work?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this. Always available to the other actors. But I mean, I'm crazy. I mean, I know that. I start thinking about things, the night before when I'm waking up in the middle of the night, and try to stay in it. I know we work hard on these things, so I know we work hard, but there can't be any tension when I'm actually in these scenes. So there's always a relaxation, but yeah, I stay in it from the time I come in. I mean, I don't carry a cell phone on the set the day of. I don't want any distractions, but we have tons of conversations, and I just like to stay in it. I like to see how close to Don I can get, because you never know when you're going to grab stuff or something's going to really land with you.
Yeah. How do you keep the preparation and then keeping it surprised on set for you? Because you do a lot of preparation. One thing that Shea does, knowing him very well, is that it's the going over and over again. I mean, that's when you're a great craftsman. You have to work very hard, but in the moment, you have to let it go and be open.
Yeah, you gotta. I mean, I'm sure you talk about this a lot. You have to let it go. You can't show. We have a saying. Tommy and I have a saying that we never want to see the actor working. You never want to see that. You don't want to see. You you don't want to show people. You have to let them feel. Like I wanted you to experience Don, or we did, you know, and that's what made it difficult, is because we had to trust Don at the start of the piece. He didn't say a lot, and that was the way you had written him. So it's relaxation plus concentration, you know, to try and each time I'm reminding myself, you know, it's like it's the first time. So, you know, in between takes, and so yeah, there's a lot. You know, I mean, it's crazy. It gets crazy. I'll call you, you know, before I put the scene the morning of, and we'll talk about it. And
Yeah, many a times I've gotten a call and then then there'll be a little knock in the background. They go, "Mr. Whigham, you're on set now?" Yeah, I gotta go. You know, so we'll be talking right before in the trailer, before he's ready to go.
I'll be doing Mission Impossible. I'll be overseas, and I'll call him, and it'll be 3 a.m, and you know, he's so available. That's why we've been together for 25 years. I mean, it's just, that's him up there. It's Jeffrey up there when we're in scenes together. I mean, you tell him what do you feel about that preparation?
Well, listen, I wanted to ask Nick. I mean, the man who played Nick in it, I wanted to ask Joey what having the mind of because you're an actor,
Right.
but you're also producing this.
Sure.
What should actors know about producing?
Well, it's very freeing, actually. When you go through the whole process, right, the audition process, we're seeing all these auditions y'all are putting on tape, and the amount of people we say no to, the amount of amazing actors we say no to, that part of it was so freeing to be on the other side, because I was like, it just really has so little to do with you. First of all, I think the other thing is so interesting about my experience. You know, I work a couple days on the film as an actor, and I'm used to that. I'm working with great actors, but I'd never sat for 5 weeks with a great actor and watched them work. And it was that experience, for me as an actor who's also producing, was just illuminating, because of the level of concentration, the level of preparation. And kind of to your point about how he is and the accessibility of Shea, I found him very accessible during that time, but focused. But on those bigger scenes, there was when we got to the death scene in Mammoth, the accessibility, and he was very, you know, we had a great relationship, so he was like, you could just tell. So when he needed to go there was a level of focus and understanding of when it was time to even remove himself more. And I think that whole process for me was really interesting. I think it's hard for us actors that come in as supporting roles, as guest stars, to be ready on the day and to have that same kind of, it's a task, and it takes really, really intense kind of focus about relaxation and really working on it so that you can be at your freest. I think in some ways that's one of the toughest things you can do on a set.
You know, speaking of auditions and you watching a lot of auditions, I wanted to ask Jeffrey what you look for in auditions, just beyond delivering the lines. I mean, what is that kind of something special that you're looking for in auditions? Because we have a lot of actors out here.
No. By the way, Joey came in on the first time I worked with him for one line on Friday Night Lights, and then I hired him again like 7 more times, and he produced a movie for me, so you never know.
What was it about Joey that
He said one line, and it was something that was kind of absurd about it, you know, and it's so hard to do one line. When you come on a set, it's terrifying. I know some actors who can't even do it. So he just did it, and I was kind of new to Texas. I was from LA and New York, and it was like he just had something about him. I think auditions are mysteries. Half the time, if you're a writer and director, you're looking for something for the character that you created, right? You have a look in mind. So the first thing you have to do is get beyond the look. The second thing I always tell actors, it's like, try anything. You know, like when you come in, you can't really, the only mistake you can make is if you're nervous and scared. And a lot of times when I see that, in the old days when you were in a room, I would notice it immediately and say to them, okay, don't be nervous. You know, like, let's just do it again. But in this day and age, you're in your own Idaho, private Idaho, when you're doing it. So I would say, just be fearless, you know, because there is no right and wrong way. And if you could be brilliant in the wrong way, and sometimes if you're brilliant in the wrong way, as a director, you might say, wow, I never saw the scene that way. Okay, so let's take that energy, move it a little bit more in the direction of the way that I want the scene to do. But don't prejudge yourself. Don't try and think like, what does the director want? What does the writer want? Find the material, find the zeitgeist of the character, and just go for it.
Wow, that's great. Shea, you know, it's been a long time coming, a long career for you. What were some mentors you had back in the day that gave you some advice that kind of still stick with you? Is there anything from your days?
Oh man, yeah. Well, help me out here too if I can't think. I mean, I talked
Well,
about.
I want to talk like purchase.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we're going way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get lucky. You guys, that was sage advice right there that he gave you. Don't try to show them what the character is. You know what I mean? And I heard this somewhere recently. I thought it was really great. The fashion industry every year comes out, and they have you'll have someone come out in a swan costume and you're like, who's going to wear? They show the industry what it's going to be. They don't sit back and say, what is it? You show them what this character should be when you're auditioning. And fearlessness is, I got lucky. I went to Purchase and I got under a woman named Laemmle Noble who chose to teach much like Tom does. She chose to be, a teacher. She studied with Strasberg and Meisner, and then she would call me out. She was really difficult on me, really tough if I wasn't being truthful. And at times it was tough. But I look back and I'm constantly using that technique of coming into a room, the knock at the door, and then letting it go, and all the exercises. So Laemmle Noble was great. Joe Stockdale, I read voraciously, and that groundwork was laid there. Because you never know when you're going to grab something. When you're reading and putting your cell phone down. That's my big thing. Put that down and see everything. See everything you can. I see a Nora. I just saw. We were talking about a Nora. Go see everything you can, and it can happen.
People.
Yeah, look at people. Yeah, if we're down here all the time, really take time to go and people watch. It's so true.
That's how you stay passionate about the work, don't you? You're constantly taking in and reading and watching things and studying.
Yeah, I definitely don't know everything. I know that. I'm constantly learning. And then you get with somebody like Jeffrey and this whole thing, man. I mean, just to give you some examples, what you just watched. I mean, I remember working with Carrie. Carrie and I have known each other since Fargo, and I knew we could trust each other. And I remember on days like the day when we were walking in the monarch butterfly forest, right before the Pacific Ocean, and she says, "Do you believe in God?" And I say, "No, not really." And that's all Jeffrey's house. That's Jeffrey's house in Goleta. It's the forest that he walks with his wife through all the time. And I just said to her, I remember, we need something here. Surprise me here. And he calls action, and she does a cartwheel in front of me. And it was like, that's the kind of stuff when you've been in a relationship, at the onset of a relationship. You're flirting. You may hip check them when you're walking down the street, or you may, if it's a tell if they're if they're doing their hair, you know what I mean. Okay, something's going down here, and that's what she did. And then the final scene when she leaves me, talk to him about that, like how that came. It wasn't working on the day we were bumping on that, and.
Well, I don't know if it wasn't working, but Carrie had a problem with the scene because I had Shea coming in from the bathroom in the first shot. Point of view is everything in a movie. and she said, something's not right here. So she talked about it, and she said, what's the scene about? I said, well, I don't know. What's the scene about, you know? And that's, sometimes it's best to like be honest. And like that to me is the bravest, the most fun. It's like, oh God, I gotta find something here. And I said, well, okay, I'm gonna start on you. And I realized at that moment that I hadn't thought about her point of view of the scene, because I was only thinking about him and about, I didn't want to give that she was going to leave. But by starting on her, I came in and I watched that scene. You could see from the moment that her wheels are turning and that she's already guilty, right? And suddenly the scene got tension in it. And without that shift, like just a shot, and I could have changed it in the cutting room, but we discovered it on the day. Suddenly the scene has a lot of tension, because I think the audience, I mean, how many people thought that she was thinking, how many people thought she was going to leave at that moment? Yeah. So even if it was only 50% of you, that's like gives the scene drama, right? But if all you're thinking about is, oh, they're lovey-dovey and they're becoming friends, then it's a good scene, but it's not a great scene, right? And it doesn't have the impact later. So that was an actor who was they were demanding that they were advocating for their place and space in a scene, which really, you know, I learned things even at my advanced age.
I mean, that's what's amazing about acting and this business, right? We can keep on pushing it and learning it all the way to the end. You know, we keep on going. What I'm getting is it takes a lot of, there's a certain amount of humility you have to have, because you have to have openness and you have to have courage. And how did you, Shea, early on, with a lot of rejection, I mean, you just didn't slide right into this. It took, I know after Tigerland, you didn't work for 2 years? How do you keep that going, man?
I don't know. Early, but thinking back to the early days, you know, we were in Noonan's class to start with, so you get a community, and you start to believe. I mean, you're an artist for life, and you never know when your shot's going to come. It'll come at some point. Your shot will come, and you're readying yourself for that. And I don't know. You gotta have a will to make it, you know, to make it happen. There's no magic. There is no magic bullet to make it. You know, I got the Tigerland and the Sopranos within the same week, if you remember that. I auditioned for the Sopranos. I got it. I got really. I got to the final, and it was just a peripheral character. And I got Tigerland at the same time. And I remember Tom. He was living in the village in the city, and we were both in the city. And I call him and I go, I got a call back for Joel Schumacher and this kid named Colin Farrell. And he's like, I'm doing a short film right now, man. Come down and let's walk. We're going to walk the street. I'm going to be. And we just started. He was sitting on the stoop. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Sitting on the stoop, and I'm walking back and forth, pacing, trying to figure out. And I go up to the Mark Hotel, and that's, you know, where Johnny Depp had been with Winona Ryder, and it had all this history. And I meet Colin in the down, and I go up and we get it. And I remember walking down and calling you, like, I got it. And you think, oh, okay. And you do this film, and then I didn't work for 2 years after that. And, you know, you just keep the faith. You keep it because of all of you guys in here, and you keep getting, you know, learning and deepening the craft.
Joey, I want to ask you about kind of the same question about keep going, because I know,
Keep going.
you know, in producing and acting, doing those both and keeping projects alive.
Yeah, it's such a long journey. When it'll happen, I mean, I'm such a great example of that. Jeff encouraged me to come to LA after we'd worked on Friday Night Lights, so I was here for a decade. and then some family stuff, health stuff with parents, kids, and stuff. I ended up back up in Texas, in Waco, Texas, the epicenter of film and television. And but there was something I did very specifically. My wife started saying we started owning a few businesses, and I took a little bit of a break from acting. My wife started introducing me. She wouldn't say I was an actor anymore, my husband, and it bothered me tremendously. And I felt it slipping a little bit. And so I said to her, I said, I'm an actor. That's what I've always been. And I don't care if I own 7 businesses here in town. I'm an actor, and that's the first thing that we're going to say. There's intentionality of not letting go. And so many people, because of COVID and other things, have ended up in different places. It's a remarkable time to be an actor. You don't have to be in the places anymore. Waco is the big city to the small town I was living in when I booked a Scorsese movie in the last few years. So to be 45 and be just this like grinding blue collar actor, and then to have the person in Jeffrey that had been the guy that had been my biggest had cast me the most and been the biggest proponent of my talent, for me then to be able to come back and I'd started running businesses, and I thought I want to combine these, and I'm playing basketball with some guys. They just happen to be 100 millionaires and have private jets, and they said for some reason they want to get an independent film. And this is all happening in Waco, Texas, 25 years into my journey after living in New York around 9/11 and grinding and auditioning and being in pilots that didn't go and all this stuff. So everybody's journey is different, but there was a specific intentionality about I am an artist and I'm going to be in the game and I'm going to keep going. And now, and then finding people that you love and that are mentors to you and colleagues to you that can help you along that path. Community is what you're saying, and I found that.
Absolutely. It really is about the community of actors and people you have around you to support you and for you to work together, because you can't do it alone. You need, it's obviously a very collaborative business, but you actors, directors, writers, you need your crew around you to push you to get better, because you can't do it alone. And I wanted to ask Jeffrey, I know we have some directors here. Okay. What advice would you give with them dealing specifically with actors?
Well, Shea and I just had a really good discussion about that. He's working on a TV show, and a director came, first thing he said to him, can you do it faster? Now, this is a very seasoned director who I think has won an Emmy. It's probably why he's working, because he goes to actors and say, can you do it faster? He makes his day. But when you work with somebody like Shea, that's not going to fly. The first thing you have to do is love actors. And you should also understand the process. So when I was at NYU, I took 2 years of acting, was more method. And then I learned about the Meisner School. And so I learned about technique. And you have to understand the technique. You have to understand what makes an actor tick. Some actors, all they want to hear is, let's go faster. They do, but Shea's not one of them. So the hardest part of directing is you watch a take, you say cut, and then you have to get off your chair. You should get off your chair. You have to walk over to the actor, and you have to say, most of the time, no, right? Because that's just your job as a director. But you have to let them have their way 1,000 times. So you have to know when to say no, or when to say, let's do it this way. You have to do the dance. And you're better off getting one great take and one great angle than 17 mediocre takes, right? So, and I always tell this, and this is something that all you actors are going to find. This is one of the problems I find in TV more than anything, is that the process. A lot of the writers who are over the shoulders, the producers, they don't allow you to discover. And I think you have to, the first take is always going to be crap. The rehearsal is going to be crap, maybe great. but don't have expectations. Let it come to you. Like, you know, like go left, go all the way left to come back a little bit to the right, you know. And by letting the actors go to the left, they discover things. And so it's a process, and never forget that. And hopefully if somebody's on your back telling you got to move, you know, like you got to be tough. You got to protect the actors because they are your vessel. They're the ones who make your movie. You know, this movie is made because of these guys.
Amazing. Thank you. Listen, one last question. Shea, you to go back to your younger self, you know, starting out as acting. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
I'm an optimist always. I think everybody, like I got through telling you, everybody in here is going to have their shot. You'll have a shot. And you have to, you know, at varying degrees, if you get a chance to go on network television, you know, one scene, you have to know that that's going to be different than if you are, you know, putting together Don in every scene. But you'll get that shot if you just keep, you know, and I would say, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not great with
I think you're saying you're going to get your shot, understand where you fit in, if it's you know, a smaller piece, and I would say understand that, if I can speak for you, understand that you're going to get through those hard times if you just keep on putting your head down, doing the work, and loving the process.
As you can tell, I'm not great with he helps me tremendously. I'm not great with, like, a lot of times I'll, you know, I'm just not great with the words. And we make a great team that way.
But uses the words very well, obviously, with the script. And what, I will say this, I will say, one of the most generous actors, if you work with him on set, even when would you say this is true, off camera, a lot of actors will check out. But Shea gives everything because he wants the project to be so good that he gives everything to the other actor.
Sometimes more. Yeah, sometimes, yeah, like unbelievable, you know.
Thanks, man.
Unbelievable off camera.
And then the other thing, watching him on set, which is a little different from working with him just preparing, is keeping that openness with every take. I don't know if you can attest to this, I'm sure you can, obviously, there's these slight differences in the listening. And it's in the pocket, but it's surprising. It's surprising, these differences.
Jack Nicholson has I glom onto a lot of these sayings. Meryl Streep said to an actress one time, I'm going to do my best work for you off camera. You do your best work for me off camera. Nicholson says, I never do it the same way twice. So you look at Nicholson, and I try to make it so tough on a director, editor, when they go in there with choices, that I want them to just agonize, like, oh my God, that's good. Oh fuck, that's good too. Oh no, I want to make it so tough, you know, so that.
Well, I will say, Tom, it's a funny story. I was working on a TV show like 20 years ago, and it was a well-known actor, and around after lunch, he would not show up for his reverse. He wouldn't block the scene. His double would block the scene. He would show up, and he'd nail it, and then his double would do all over the shoulders. So it happens.
Shea, have you ever said no to a director?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, not. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There are times that, I mean, what happens is, I mean, you can tell that, but you're working when we start. The writer director is here, and I'm here, and at some point, I start to understand the character maybe even more, would you say, than you, or, like you go, these are your characters now at one point, and so I'll try anything as long as I think it's, but yeah, I'm definitely willing, but there are times,
But you will protect your character.
oh yeah. for
So
sure.
if you're getting sometimes a producer or someone who really is not,
It doesn't happen that often, to be honest with you, though. You don't run into that often, or at least I don't. But yeah, there are times. I mean, we're just discussing that tonight. There are times when, but you got to be open and you got to be nimble, man. You got to be able to really flow in there when you get on a set, because there's a lot of different things going on. So, and you'll be prepared. You prepare so that no matter what happens, nothing throws you.
well, I must say, Jeffrey, beautifully directed, beautifully written. Joey, thank you so much for bringing this to the screen, and Shea Whigham for such an amazing performance. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming out. Let's give a lot of support to this movie.
If you like the movie, just go out and support it. These indie movies need all the support we get, and spread the word, man. It's like these movies need all the love that we get, and that's how they get go up there.
Yeah. Thank you, Laemmle. Thank you, Rebecca from Magnolia Pictures. And thank you so much for coming out, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom, for doing this, man. This was great,
My
man.
pleasure.